What is the velocity of money, and why does anyone kind of care about this when you're going through a sort of tough economic situation like a recession? Welcome to the episode. Today we're going to talk about the velocity of money, which is kind of an economics term for how quickly money flows throughout the economy. And as we're sort of in 2022 in an era of sort of economic uncertainty, we're kind of looking at a couple of bad quarters in terms of growth that has brought up this question about the rate of money throughout the economy. So generally, if people are very confident that times are good, they're getting raises, they're not worried about getting fired for layoffs or whatever, then people are generally not very worried about spending, and they might spend more readily, go out to dinner more often, go to concerts or whatever. And so the rate of money throughout an economy could be faster. People who watch the economy like to monitor this as an indicator of the health of an economy. So the way it's kind of calculated is you take the total amount of money that a country sort of earns, the GDP, the gross domestic product, and you divide it by the amount of money that exists, and it kind of shows you how quickly the same dollars are being exchanged hands from one person to the next. And so the faster this rate, the higher the velocity in the economy. So if a country is in recession, one thing that a government might try to do is to increase the velocity of money. This is probably, there are a couple reasons why governments give stimulus money. So we'll talk about the COVID stimulus that was given in 2020. The concern was people were losing their jobs, the restaurants were closed, a lot of businesses were not able to operate, and so the velocity of money would slow down dramatically. So if the government were to give out stimulus, then people could continue to exchange value, buy stuff, sell stuff, and to keep the velocity of money up. However, this is a little bit of a controversial topic because a healthy society looks forward to the future. If I am very optimistic that the best years of my life are a few years ahead, then I'm going to want to save money to prepare for that. So this is called time preference, and that a culture and an economy with high time preference means you have a lot of people who are looking forward to the future, and they want to prepare for that by saving. So spending money isn't always a good thing for an economy or a society if we want people to be looking forward to the future. So one thing that can happen is during a recession, a country could decide they want to stimulate spending as a way to increase this velocity and inadvertently decrease people's ability or motivation to save. And one thing that some countries have done and would be possible with a programmable money like a central bank digital currency is you could program in what's called a negative interest rate, which means that if I have my money sitting in a bank account, I could have to pay like a percentage fee each month. So it's like the opposite of earning interest. They're like taking interest. And this would be a way to incentivize or encourage people to spend money. Basically, the idea is use it or lose it. Sort of like a gift card that could expire. Like you want people to spend the money. So governments have tools to make sure that that velocity of money stays high. So it's an interesting idea, and there's sort of pros and cons to it. Obviously, you wouldn't have much of an economy if nobody was spending money anywhere. But at the same time, you do want to have a portion of society who is focused on saving so that the time preference of that culture is generally high. And one kind of interesting or benefit to using blockchain tech for global or even domestic payments is that right now, if I were to send you money from my bank to your bank, it takes a couple of days. Like even if you use technology like ACH payments, there's usually a minimum 2 days, sometimes up to 4 days. It can take a while. And so those are, let's even just call it, split the difference and call it 3 days. So let's say the 3 days my money is sort of sitting somewhere, not exchanging hands. That slows down the velocity of money. And so using blockchain technology like the products produced by Ripple and XRP would enable that money to change hands more quickly. It would increase the velocity of money, which in some regards is good. Now, this money sitting in an ACH account isn't really being saved by me, so it doesn't really relate to this time preference idea. So it would allow the velocity to increase for payments. Now, the one thing, though, is that money that was sitting in ACH for 3 days, it actually wasn't really just sitting there. The banks were lending it out through what is called the float. So there are pros and cons to making a lot of these changes. And banks will have to give up the interest money they've been earning on the float for a while. But it will, regardless, help with the velocity of money throughout the economy when we are making payments through a blockchain and they go through and settle instantly. But I did just want to explain what this concept means and why people look at it, but also just warn you that high velocity has its drawbacks, because you do want to have a portion of your money and society's money that is focused on saving. Because the idea is, if you think the world's going to end tomorrow, then you might as well just spend it all. That's not necessarily good for the long term. We do all want to be investing in the future if you are optimistic that good days are ahead. So if you want to read more about this, check out my link in the comments to a blog post I wrote on velocity of money. And if you'd like more in-depth reporting on blockchain, the future of money, as well as some geopolitics as it relates to all of this, download a free issue of the 2 Steps Ahead report. The link for that is also in the comments.